Morning, everybody. It's DiMisa, Tommy D, your friend, the nonprofit sector connector. And we've been doing this, Christine Deska and I, for a bunch of years now. I kind of lost count, but it's been at least 2.5 years since we've done one in person. So, and it was probably a year before that, maybe more. So maybe we're going on 4 years. It's a special community. It's certainly an opportunity to connect and collaborate amongst ourselves in the nonprofit sector. And each month we bring you a subject matter expert on a topic that we believe is relevant, but we also get the feedback from the group that the group also believes that the information is relevant. So what we're going to do before we get started with our conversation with Betty Monroe from Connective Engagement is, as you've been here before, I just want to go around the room, a quick introduction about you, the organization you represent, and maybe there's something you need or something you want to teach us about. I'll try to keep it up like 45 seconds. Let's stay less than a minute. So we'll go with Jennifer Lowe, followed by Sean Slevin, please.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Jennifer Lowe, and I've been in the nonprofit sector for probably 30 years, dating myself here. I currently am a founding board member and vice chair of the Mondays at Racine Cancer Care Foundation, providing wellness and beauty and other oncology services that are complementary to men, women, and now a new program for young adults and teens undergoing treatment for cancer. So it's always a pleasure to be with Allison and with Christine and Tommy and all of you. I'm so grateful for all that you do to strengthen our communities.
Thank you, Jennifer. I want you to meet Dino Varelli, who's the founder of Project Purple. He's a friend of mine in Connecticut. They are a PC, pancreatic cancer focused organization. And I think from what you're talking about, there'd be a great fit. So let's go to Sean, followed by Elisa Lewin.
Good morning, everyone. Sean Slevin, Executive Director for Swim Strong Foundation. Our mission is to reduce unintended drowning and water-based accidents, and we do that by providing educational programs for schools, organizations out of water. And we also are in the water providing actual swim skill training as well. Can you believe we're on the doorstep of the 10th anniversary of Superstorm Sandy? And it ain't getting any better. So, if you know of schools, if you know of educators, who really could use education around this for their students, please do let me know. We've got some programming that's pretty dynamic.
So
good to see you all.
Good to see you, Sean. Do you know our friend Beth Buckheister? Have you guys connected and spoke together? Because I think this would be an interesting conversation for you to have in the schools at a career day.
Mm-hmm. The challenge around that, Tommy, is bandwidth.
Yeah.
And the program itself is really geared for teachers to deliver. Mm-hmm. Depending upon, there's 4 programs, 3 are school-based, eligible for school-based, and they're really meant to be embraced by the school and taught multiple times, even to the parents, the school family, if you will.
Yeah.
So the career day wouldn't really be suitable for the programming.
All right, then I'm going to take another stab at this. I want you to get connected with Sherry Diamond over at Sereni and Associates. I wrote it in my notes. Sherry runs their programs, their accounting work that they do in the districts here on Long Island. I'm going to just say like 40 districts are clients of theirs. So let's talk about that. We'll take it offline, but this is the kind of stuff I want everybody to sort of think about. It's like, where do we make these connections? How can we collaborate together?
Tommy.
Yes.
If I may, Sean, do you work with the Long Beach School District yet?
No, we don't. And
okay,
they're right next door to us. We have a program in Far Rockaway. So
okay, we should. I'm part of Long Beach School District, and I have a great relationship with the superintendent. So let's talk.
Thank you, Alice. Thank
Sure.
you all. Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Yes. Don't eat all that candy. All right. So look, that's what we're supposed to be doing here. So this is the only meeting you probably go to where the guy at the front of the table is like, I want you to multitask. I want you to be chatting off like in the corner and stuff like that. Please do make those connections. So Allison and Sean will take that one. Elisa Lewin, followed by Vicki Elner.
Good morning, everyone. So nice to see you. Some of you I've met last time, and some of you I have not. My name is Alyssa Lewin. I am the founder of Nancy's House. Nancy's House is a unique organization that breaks the isolation and exhaustion that can come with taking care of somebody who is chronically ill or disabled. We have many, many programs, flagship programs being respite retreats for caregivers, parents, spouses, adult children, whomever. But what we have coming up that I really want you all to know about, and Danny, I was listening, I don't know where you disappeared on my screen. There you are. I was listening to you describe what you do, and the moms or the parents of your kids would be really interested in the conference that we have coming up. It's next Saturday, November 5th. It's a half day from 9 to 12:30. It's online, so wherever you are, you can join. But what struck me is a lot of people don't know the research about the physical impacts of being a parent taking care of an ill child. Huge. And people think, well, you're just a parent, you're just doing what you're supposed to be doing. But the impact of that, the physical and emotional impact of that is huge. And so, maybe there's other stuff we can do together, but I would love for your folks to come and be part of the conference. And for anybody, the conference, and Jennifer, you disappeared on my screen too. There you are. I was thinking about your folks too, that, the people who are supporting people who have cancer are the ones who are kind of invisible, but need a lot of care too. So it's a $10 registration. That's all, just $10. There are 6 workshops. You'll be able to choose 2 of them. 3 are informational, 3 are experiential. All of them are wonderful. And go to nancys-house.org to register. nancys-house.org.
If I pull that from the website, can I share it right here? Is it like
Yes, please.
nancys.house.org?
House, nancys-house.org. And make sure it's a dash, not an underscore.
Yeah, it's funny. We did that for our PAL show, Professionals and Animal Lovers show. And now every time we do it, we have to mention that it's a dash and not an underscore. If I go back and fix that one, I would probably fix that one on my end for me. So it's November 5th. That's not what we're talking about. Or is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that is what we're talking about.
Okay.
Saturday, November 5th, 9 to 12:30.
Yeah, it's the first thing that opens up right on your page here. So
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I just shared that. So if
Thank
you're
you.
listening to this and you're not in the Zoom room with us, you go to nancys-house.org and November 5th from 9 a.m. to 12:30. Okay, great. All right. So I said, thank you. Thank you, Alyssa. Let's go to Vicky, followed by Allison. Allison, we did it before the video, but I want you to do it again, please.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Vicki Elner. I am a nurse by background. Most of my nursing was done with the special needs population. I have extensive not-for-profit experience. I've spent many years advocating passionately for issues related to our aging population and women's issues. I'm currently, as I said before, sitting on the board of directors of a New York Statewide Senior Action Council. I also sit on their public policy committee, where we look to, get our platform for our federal and state issues that we feel that are important to be advocating for. And I just recently went through a training and increased or added to my credentials, and I am now a certified grief recovery specialist. The experience was really life-changing for me going through the process and everything. So there are 40+ life events that can cause grief. And we tend to say, gee whiz, we'll get over it. But there's a lot more, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about that and how we can work together.
Thank you, Vicky. I'm always so happy that you're part of this community. Thanks for being here. Where would we go after Vicky? I said we're going to go to Allison, followed by Danny Taylor, please.
Before I introduce myself, Vicky, do you work with Camp Good Morning at all?
I don't, but I'm very familiar with them.
Okay, yeah, that would be a great connection.
Yeah.
Allison, now I have to interrupt because that's a dynamite connection, because Paul is always needing of nurses for camp.
Well, and just anybody that really understands grief counseling is so important.
You got grief and the nursing thing, Vicky. Yeah. I'll drive you out to camp if you need a ride or something like that.
Yeah. I know where you live, right? You know.
I know where you live.
No, I have to say, as a nurse working in schools, which I did for a while through the BOCES system, I was able to give kids the ability to go away on either day trips or overnights because I was a nurse who was willing to travel and do that. So it was very, very rewarding for me personally and professionally.
Well, if you ever want an introduction, please let us know. Happy to do it.
Thanks, Allison.
So no problem. Good morning, everybody. I'm Allison LaFerlita. I'm the Executive Director with the Nonprofit Resource Hub. Nonprofit Resource Hub provides support, services, and education to the nonprofit industry. It is free of charge to nonprofits to join. I would encourage everybody to please join. We do have a half-day conference coming up in New York City on November 15th about board development. We have a really dynamite lineup of speakers. You will hear from people from all walks of life, all different organizations. So I would encourage you to please look at the Eventbrite link and see if you can make it out there. It would be worth your day to be in the city. And it's a half day. It's from 9 to 2. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Allison. Danny Taylor, followed by Amy. I'm so glad to see you today. I didn't know if you were going to make it. So Amy in a new desk in a new space. Danny Taylor, followed by Amy Fleischer.
Hi, my name is Danny Taylor. I'm the co-founder of the YOLO Strong Foundation. We are a group of ladies who for 10 years have been competing in obstacle course races and marathons to raise funds for medically fragile, terminally ill, and special needs children. Recently, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary and have started our team of women working for Signature Premier, and each woman has promised or committed to donating a portion of their proceeds of sales to the YOLO Strong Foundation. Two things that I thought I'd mention is one of a new project that we've just started is called Friday Friends here in Oyster Bay. And we actually provide respite for families of severely special needs children. Our first Friday will be this Friday. So we're actually doing that once a month here in Oyster Bay. We're starting out small because we want to make sure that families feel comfortable. And within YOLO Strong, we have teachers, social workers, and nurses. So we will be manning as well as children, older children, to play with the students. It's going to be a 2-hour time in which we allow adults or parents some time of respite. So I thought that was interesting. And then also, I think there was something else, but I completely forgot. So thank you all for allowing me to join.
Danny, you're welcome. I'm so glad you're part of what we're doing. I want to ask you, do you know the Waterfront Center? Because I'm wondering if some of that stuff could be done at the Waterfront Center with, activities. We should connect on that.
Okay, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I wrote it down, Danny to Waterfront Center. All right. So thank you, Danny. Thank you for what a great event it was Saturday night. And our friend Katie McGowan, who's here in the room with us, I think we'd say the same. We had a really nice time. What a special event. Talk about event planning, talk about development. Amy Fleischer, what's going on? How are you?
Good morning, everybody. I apologize for the cold that I have. Thank God I home tested and it's not COVID, but first week in a new job. I am now the development director at Long Island Federal Qualified Health Center. So it's LIFQHC. I used to be at another FQHC. So for those that don't know, an FQHC is sanctioned to help the underserved. Whatever that means. My old FQHC was primarily the intellectually and developmentally disabled. LIFQHC has full medical centers with all specialties in Roosevelt, Hempstead, Freeport, Oceanside, Elmont, and Westbury. We also have WIC, Women, Infants, and Children. Programs in a few of those, and we have 3 school centers. So day 4 for me here. So I'm just getting acclimated, but I will be, there is no development department. There's no fundraising. There's none of that yet. So I'll be starting that from scratch, which is really exciting. We have around about 40,000 patients that we see, and we treat people whether they have insurance or not. So not based on their ability to pay, we turn anyone away. So I'll put my contact information, my new contact information and the website in the search, just if you have anybody that needs healthcare. I mean, honestly, it's as simple as that. Don't go without healthcare. My old boss used to say healthcare should not be determined upon your zip code. So really happy to be starting here and seeing what I can do.
Sorry.
Nope, it's all good. Thank you, Amy. And I've seen more friends popping up into the room. It's so fun. So after Amy, I don't know if I said anybody else because I think I didn't, but I'm looking around the room. Katie, let me know if you can come off mute and say hello. Please. Katie McGowan from Horseability.
She wrote in the chat she could only listen, Tommy.
Is that what it said? I didn't know she said she could only, I didn't know if she could introduce herself. So then since she can, then I can as a board member of Horseability. So Horseability is a very special organization about to celebrate their 30th anniversary. It is a place I go to find some respite, to be honest with you, on the campus of SUNY Old Westbury. They do equine therapy and hippotherapy, working with horses and working with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as those experiencing PTSD, so often veterans as well. And it is a very, very special place. Horses have this incredible connection to us and we with them. And I haven't been there in a couple of weeks, and that is a problem. So Katie, I'm coming to the forum soon. But I will tell you, I had an opportunity to go to their golf outing. I didn't play, but I stopped by, and there's a video on the internet right now with me and the minis, Aiden and Pearl. So if you didn't catch that video, check out my Instagram, TommyD.NYC, because I was just talking with the minis, and I look like a giant person because people might not realize that those are actually mini horses, not big horses. And I stood up and they're like, anyway, I thought it was cute and funny, but those minis get in the mini van, wink, wink. They get in the minivan, which is like a caravan, right? And they go around to senior citizen homes, and they go in elevators and they go to hospitals. And that is one of the programs that I think is super special, and I need to be more involved with that particular program. And some of us were there. Some of us were at Horseability in the Sean Slevin spring, maybe spring, April-ish. It was last year or earlier this year. Sean's giving me a thumbs up. So something I said was correct. All right. And actually, Jamae, it's funny you're here because we were talking about the Waterfront Center only like 5 times. So I'm glad you're here because you need to connect with Sean Slevin, Swim Strong, because I think there's a cool program we could talk about water safety. Danny Taylor is from YOLO Strong. She's up in Oyster Bay, and she was talking about some things she does for families with medically fragile children and giving the parents a respite. So I'm wondering if we could do something cool at the Waterfront Center. So why don't you tell us what the Waterfront Center is?
Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm a little late, and obviously I have a little horse in my throat myself. No pun intended. It's great to see you guys. I am with Waterfront Center, as Tommy had mentioned, and we were so honored to have, I'm so sorry, my dog. We were so honored to have Tommy do a wonderful in the attic moment with my executive director, George, and they had a great interview, and he really was really wonderful. So we really appreciate all Tommy has done. Obviously, I've known Tommy now for a while, and I keep on connecting with him because he is the connection master, as you all know. But enough about Tommy. I mean, we can go on. But
enough about Tommy. More about Jermaine.
Go on. So the Waterfront Center, I guess you might have mentioned a little bit about it, but we're a wonderful nonprofit organization that really mission is to connect individuals to the water through education and recreation. And I'm so proud of myself because I've been with them for a couple of months now, and I'm just finally getting the mission down like that. Like, you know, it takes you a while to get those missions down. It's not a hard one, and I don't know why, but anyway, regardless, it's a wonderful organization. I've been there just about 6 months now, so I should have had it down by now. But the core of it really is that our developments have grown everywhere along the waterfront. And there's a lot of for-profit organizations along the waterfront. There's a lot of country clubs along the waterfront. There's a lot of businesses along the waterfront. There's no nonprofit entity that will allow you to have access to the water. So to learn how to sail, to learn how to kayak, to learn how to just be one with the water. I mean, it's silly to say it, but it's true. Like, I feel like when you're on the water or you're looking at the water, it's one of those like redeeming factors that make you feel good, right? And that's how I feel. I feel like a lot of people feel that way. And it's really wonderful to see that. One of the cool things about our mission is that we provide that opportunity to individuals that don't have the means, like youth or adults that are, at that poverty line. We really accept and open our doors to be able to have them come to learn how to sail. I mean, my kids this summer even got to learn how to sail. And I am so happy about it because it's one of those things. We live on the water. We're in Long Island, like it's one of those opportunities that we actually get to do that. So it's really exciting. And then kayaking, and we rent these too. So it's a for-profit but nonprofit. It's an opportunity. It's just like the Y, basically. The Y has programs. You use the programs, but there's a mission behind it. So that's what the Waterfront Center is all about. And I don't want to take any more time.
No, you did great job, Jermaine. I think,
Thank you.
all I would add is that you should invite us out to the Waterfront Center and we should all come by and we should.
Well, it's funny you had to mention that, Tommy D, because we're going to have a Tommy D special cruise day in the spring. As soon as the Memorial Day weekend hits and our boat's back on the water, we're going to make sure that Tommy D gets to invite 24 of his closest friends.
Wow.
And we're going to have a wonderful time on our Christine, which is a 32-foot vessel that goes out with a sail.
No, it's
a
an
gorgeous
oyster
vessel.
sloop. The oyster sloop. It's been around
Sloop.
since,
That's what it is.
like, it's 138 years old or something. Yeah.
Correct. It has a long history, and we
You're in,
there
Amy.
you go.
You're in. Amy
Amy, you're
said
in.
Tommy, can I just, I also just want to let Jamie know, since she's new, and this was quite some time ago, but I want to let you know, as an attestament to your organization, my nephew, I believe, took sailing lessons there, and he's now going to school to be a Marine police officer.
Oh, that's
So he
wonderful.
started there. That was his inspiration.
So
That's
So,
wonderful.
and now he's in college, and that's what he's going to school for.
that's a lot of what George and I talked about on the show the other day, was about exposing people to things they might not be aware of. And, Sean, I know, when we talk water safety, I mean, yes, to Jermaine's point, we live on an island, and, we know that the water is rising. So we need to know how to be safe around it. So I admit and share everything. So first thing is, I don't know where I'm going in this room just yet. So I got to figure that out in a second. But Jermaine, I'm jazzed. Tommy D Fest. I don't know what just happened there. All right. Let's go. Lisa, you just got into the room, so I don't know if you got a feel for what's going on here, but I'm going to call on you and tell me, Tommy D, I got it, or tell me you don't got it. Either way, I'm going to take care of you. So just kind of who you are, a little bit about the organization, try to make it about 45 seconds. And you can tell us kind of how we met if you want, how we all connected.
All right, timer go. Ready. So my name is Lisa Lewis. I am the founder and executive director of Omnium, a bold new circus. And we are a first of its kind. We provide spectacular, exciting, awe-inspiring entertainment performed by professional circus artists who are representative of multicultures, multi-abled, multi-everythings. From age, we include everyone. And we also provide complete access at every single show. Audio description. The show is done simultaneously in English and American Sign Language. We provide sensory adaptations so that every family can enjoy the circus together every single performance. Because as you all probably know, 1 in 4 people have a disability. That means 87% of us are touched by disability in some way, shape, or form, and no one should be left behind when it comes to really bringing people together with the joy of mass entertainment, the joy of a circus. And so that is our mission, that is our goal. We have entertainment programs, we have education programs, we work in schools, and we've just been given the NOD award for employment practices. 40% of our team is people with disabilities. And I got the honor of meeting Tommy because we were a finalist at the NYC Imagine Awards. Yay! Which I'm super excited about.
And
So that's it. Did I make 45 seconds?
did exactly what I needed, because you did a segue that I needed. The Long Island Imagine Awards applications are now out and available. I just put the link in the chat. If you provide services on Long Island, get your application in. We've added a 6th category. And I don't want to screw up the name of it, but it is around diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. I hit it right on. So that's actually the first ever Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Award, which is sponsored by Bethpage Federal Credit Union this year. So get your Imagine Awards applications in. There's a countdown on the website. It always tells you like how many seconds are left, like 32 days, 15 hours, 5 minutes and 54 seconds, 53 seconds, 52 seconds. I can't keep doing that or we won't have a meeting, but go to imagineawardsli.com. All right. Thank you, Lisa. I'm glad you're here. And we talked to Jemay. Melissa Greenberger, can you say hello before we keep going? She can. I see her came off chat. Hey,
I can. Good morning, everybody. So great to see you and so excited for everybody's new roles since the last time I was on with you guys. So congratulations, everybody. I'm Melissa Greenberger. I am a program officer at the Long Island Community Foundation. We are a grant-making organization, and as a community foundation, our role is to connect donors to nonprofits to get money out into the community to help people in need. So we help the nonprofits who then help the people doing, things like arts and culture and environmental and disabilities and youth development, education. There's a whole host of types of issues that we address. And I'm happy to be here this morning. So thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. I looked around the room and I think we hit upon everybody. I would encourage you all to use the chat, use the private chat, whatever, connect with each other. I mean, I see 6 or 7 things that should happen after this meeting. So I'm sure you probably see infinite possibilities through these relationships. I'd encourage you to take the meeting offline, online, inline, wherever you want to take the meeting, take the conversation somewhere else. I remember one day Christine and I were talking, Christine Deska and I said, yeah, she goes, Tommy, there's always a meeting after the meeting. And I said, you're right. There's always a meeting after the meeting. So take that somewhere else. But if I could be collaborative and helpful, or Christine can be collaborative and helpful with those meetings, we want to be part of that too, when it's appropriate. So, all right, without any further banter from Tommy D, we're going to get to our feature presentation. So at this point, I'm going to spotlight our friends who are, there's Christine. And let's add spotlight. There's Betty. So the way we do this each month is, if you've never been with us in this meeting before, it's a very open conversation. So if you have questions during this, Christine, just stop and ask Christine, raise your hand, use a little icon to raise your hand, put a question in the chat. We'd rather get your voices into the room. I think that's always better. So raise your little hand or your real hand and let us know when you have a question, and we'll get you looped in on that. Or put it in the chat and say, hey, Tommy and Christine, I have a question. And we'll do it that way. So I'm going to just first introduce Christine, who, we originally met many, many years ago, 5-6 years ago. And I've had this really special opportunity to collaborate with Christine on this project and honestly on a number of other projects. Christine is the president of the board for the Nonprofit Resource Hub. She and I collaborate with the Queens Chamber of Commerce Nonprofit Committee. She's the founder of, my doorbell's ringing. Oh, Bobby Brown's here from Young New Yorkers. Sorry, mid-bio, sorry. I've had this really cool opportunity to collaborate with Christine. She and her partner, Frank, founded Nonprofit Sector Strategies, and they created Bell's Board, which is a board portal, a platform that is reachable from a cost perspective for nonprofit organizations where other solutions in the marketplace are more difficult from a cost perspective access. They went out and they said, we needed something. I'll just tell the story. When Christine and Frank knew each other through another nonprofit, they searched the market, couldn't find what they needed at the organization they were at the time. So they said, let's create something. And they went out and did that. And now I like being partners with them and collaborating, making introductions for them on that front as well. So that is Christine. I want to just say the opportunity that I have through my network is to bring great people to you all. And, I only know Betty Monroe for a few months now, but it's something about when I connect with great people is I get to say, ooh, who would really benefit from knowing you? And it's like, I then fill in the blanks, and the group here are those people who would certainly benefit. So I'm going to read a little bit about Betty, and then I'm just going to get out of the way. So Betty Monroe is originally from Los Angeles, now residing in Atlanta. while working in the Southeast as a film and television actress. She is a mother of 3, a school teacher for more than 20 years, an acting coach, and many of her years, with many years of experience in the classroom and entertainment, really providing a solid foundation and segue into the coaching business, coaching with sales professionals for interpersonal relationships and communication. So really, it's kind of funny because I did a silly video yesterday with my camera was like facing the ceiling. And and it's funny how we all react, because Betty texted me and she was like, oh my God, I was about to make a wise ass comment about what your video, and then my whole video was to set the stage that this is not how you do a video meeting. And it was funny because it obviously got the effect I was looking for. So sorry to put you on a spot and put our personal text messages out there, Betty.
It was funny.
It was funny, right? I was just trying to get people to
I was like, Tommy, what are you out? And then I saw what you did.
got you. If you don't know the video I'm talking about, just check out tommyd.nyc on Instagram. Always promoting. All right. So Betty and Christine, please take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Tommy. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for making the time. We know you're all zoomed out, so we love this community coming together. We're so excited to have Betty here. Since others were talking about new roles, I just did want to add that I'm also now the co-chair of the Queen's Chambers Nonprofit Committee, and that's also thanks to Tommy and many other connections. It's a really cool network that I'm now part of, you know, and I live in Queens, so I'm very proud to be part of it. So it's just another network. So if you guys want to reach out for any resources in Queens, I have this new wonderful support system here, and it's a vibrant group, and we're growing, and it's exciting. So we have so many folks now for so long that all the kind of evolution of roles is really fun to see. I just love it. You all are landing in really fun places and just doing such good work. So now we have Betty here today. And so, you know, Tommy met Betty, and when we talked the other day, you know, Betty said that it takes 7 seconds to create a first impression, right? That really stuck with me because I feel like we're all on Zoom so frequently now. We get a little lazy. I said to Betty, I mean, but it's okay that I was eating my Clementine on the Zoom, right? You know, I can have a little snack while, and she kind of said, well, I mean, if people are seeing you chewing, you're probably not putting your best foot forward. So we really need Betty with us today to kind of recenter us, align us in this new world, and just talk about kind of how we're getting back into society in different ways. It's different now, you know, in this post-pandemic environment. At least we hope that's what it is, right? We're kind of pushing and pulling. But first, Tommy gave a great introduction about Betty, but I'd like Betty in her own words to just kind of tell us about her background and how she landed where she is. I did think you were an actress when I first saw your photo, and now it's confirmed. Tell us more about your trajectory and how you landed where you are now.
Well, thank you for having me, Tommy. I adore you. You know this. I'm so grateful to be here. And I have to start by saying, never mind me, but every one of you is incredible. As mentioned, I'm a former elementary educator and early childhood professional with a special needs background, and I taught in that environment for 25 years and continue to do so, as well as have a young adult child with special mental health needs. So I adore everything you're all doing, and some of you will be receiving phone calls and communication from me in regards to what you're doing. So thank you for what you guys do. But how did I wind up here? Well, as shared, I am a film and TV actress, but that's just a fun passion part of my career. I left teaching in 2019 and began producing and marketing a sales enablement based podcast for my then life partner. And he was the host. And as we moved into the pandemic, I started watching my sellers really struggling in this environment. As Tommy joked, you know, we were seeing people like this, and I literally had someone eating a steak dinner on camera as I was hosting a webinar. No joke. It was horrid. So giggle, giggle. The aesthetics are the smallest part of it, right? We all want to look good. We want to light ourselves properly. Raise your camera up so that we see you and we don't look like we're looking up at you or down at you. That's the simplest part of it. And while we all know somebody who may still be struggling in that area, even more importantly, now that we've moved into where we are in business, in creating relationships, this has proven to be a beautiful thing. And that this was the way during the pandemic when we were forced to be completely isolated in the very beginning, this was the only way we could communicate with our families, let alone work. And so it's now become the norm, right? And it's no longer the new normal. It just is what it is. And it's in constant evolvement, right? It's like the waves that crash at the beach. They're never the same shape, size, or strength, not once. So we now have to learn how to ebb and flow with the tide. And if we don't learn to surf, we're going to drown. So it is more important to me that I focus on leadership and enablement in the fact that we need to bring interpersonal connection skills and the soft skills to the forefront that are no longer as important as the formerly emphasized hard skills. So this is more about learning to connect in a genuine manner. And sellers, service providers, and actors have so much more in common than you would ever think, because we are all aiming to get to a yes. In your cases, you are looking to get a yes in support for your nonprofit. If you're a service provider, you're aiming to get to a yes to be the helper that you want to be to the person that you're reaching out to as a prospect or a client. So it is imperative that we know this can be done. And while person to person, face to face, and as our friend Michael Goldberg likes to say, belly to belly is ideal, because as human beings, it's psychologically proven that we must connect physically, but an emotional connection is important too. So that's kind of where I am.
Thank you so much, Betty. It's so needed. You know, I was just thinking, so whether it's personal or in our business lives, you know, this Thanksgiving coming up quickly, right? I'll be seeing some family members in person for the first time in probably 3 or 4 years, just because there's kind of a faction of family that kind of went down a different path through COVID, and now we're kind of getting back together again. And it is causing some kind of trepidation, even for me in that environment. But tell us about how you see people, whether it's business or in their everyday life, kind of transitioning back to in-person. What are some of the challenges kind of coming up for folks, and how can we kind of approach it in a more effective way to kind of re-enter or kind of get better in alignment with one another?
I think it's about a self-awareness and an ability to access empathy. And, you know, everybody's handling this differently. Some people are really struggling with the return to in-person. Isolation can create incredible introversion, even if you were not introversive before. If you were an introvert prior to this, it's really hard. If you're someone who is in sales tech or someone who's used to hiding in a cubicle behind a computer screen, this is really tough, right? And it's hard for a seasoned professional to be on camera all day. And one of the things that we need to maintain an awareness of is being gentle with ourselves and those that are coming back around us that we may not have been around physically for some time. So it's just self-awareness, recognizing that every one of us is different, and having a sense of empathy. Talking to people, how are you feeling? What's going on? Asking people that you're seeing, tell me something good and something bad that's going on, or something sweet or something sour, you know, before you get to the business of things. And when it's family, just reconnect, right?
Thank you. Yeah, it's just, you don't realize you have these feelings until it's kind of getting closer and closer. And it's just been these past few years. I guess part of my experience was lucky having my second daughter in the midst of the pandemic, because kids just keep you so busy. You have to be getting out, you have to be doing things. But I know some of my friends that live alone really, really struggled and are still struggling, I think, to reconnect. So there's this constant theme that we all hear. The best way to connect is through vulnerability. I think Brene Brown really made that known, and it is a powerful thing. And it's this kind of be more authentic, be vulnerable. You know, no one wants to see a perfectly polished video anymore. So when it comes to, you know, your work, there is this balance though, right? We don't need to be showing off our steak in our mouth as we're on a Zoom. Yeah, great that you're having steak, or great that I'm eating my lunch tonight, but do I need to expose folks to that? What is the, you know, perception going to be of me as a professional? Should I be snacking on a first time client meeting? Thankfully, it wasn't the first time for me, but still, you know, what should we be thinking about as we're trying to come across as authentically ourselves, but also balancing the fact that we need a certain level of professionalism.
Right. So common sense and boundaries, right? All jokes aside, but we're all human beings being human. And when it comes to those things, common sense, right? I wouldn't, now, if you're on a call with Tommy, go ahead and eat. I'm sure he doesn't care. You know, even with me at this point, I wouldn't care either. But if it's a new prospect, a new client, a potential new donor that you've never met or spoken with before, put your best foot forward. And as was mentioned earlier, it takes the average person 7 seconds to form a first impression, and first impressions are very difficult to change. So we no longer have to be buttoned up in suits and ties, and we no longer have to be minding our old-fashioned P's and Q's. But again, common sense and boundaries. But yet we do need to maintain a sense of authenticity and genuity. We need to be our genuine selves and recognize that we are all human beings being human. I cannot repeat that phrase enough. We are all human beings being human. You know, it was not normal 3 years ago for the Amazon guy to ring the doorbell during a meeting like this. It was not normal for my 5-pound dog to come scratch at my leg and make me so annoyed that if I didn't pick him up, he was not going to go away. It was not normal for your cat to walk across your computer keyboard, you know, or your 4-year-old toddler come running behind you naked while you're on a call with the CEO and 10 other higher ups going, I'm Superman, and everybody sees his stuff, right? But we all need to bring that levity and humor and humanness into this. And it can be tough when there are things like generational gaps or people who've done things the right way, their way for 25, 35, 45 years. So it's about, again, bringing the empathy in, allowing the vulnerability out. And that can be tough for some, but it's about breaking the outer shell. And again, starting meetings on a more personal level and not jumping straight to business, asking that question, tell me something sweet or something sour that's going on in your business or professional life that you're comfortable sharing, right? If you're sending an email to somebody that you're connecting to for a first time and you're setting up a meeting, break the ice and set up that trust already by adding at the very end, hey, here's a fun fact about me. By the way, I speak 3 languages. Tell me something fun about you that most people might not know right away. And that just simply cracks the ice and opens it just enough for that vulnerability to show and their ability to trust you to start growing right away.
Absolutely. That connectivity is so important. You know, I work a lot on board development and doing some board retreat work right now, and really setting the stage in the early part of the retreat and kind of going around and hearing from everyone is so powerful. And it's funny because oftentimes there's a business person, sort of a high-powered individual who's the board president, who kind of says, well, we don't really need an icebreaker. Do we really need to hear from everybody? And, you know, as a facilitator and a connector, as I try to be, and as I learned from Tommy and now learning from you, yes, we do need to hear from everybody. We need everyone to be part of this. There's a very intentional reason why, you know, if you want to be a high-performing, engaged board of directors, that you need everybody to feel like they belong. And trust. Yeah.
This is a 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, because you are absolutely 110% correct. But if you're in a situation where you have a staff of 50 and you want to call a staff meeting, do all 50 people need to be on camera, not completing the other tasks they need to complete so that you can yell at them tomorrow because their deadline wasn't met? Absolutely not, right? So it's about making an asynchronous environment. And while everyone on a board being present is very important for the reasons you stated, absolutely, no argument. There are times when things can be broken down into smaller chunks, and less is more. And something I like to tell my clients and people I interact with is to kiss it. Keep it simple, stupid, right? Sounds terrible. However, it's totally logical. Keep it simple, stupid. It doesn't have to be as complicated as those are trying to make it. So
that is such a great point, right? It can't always be everyone involved in that way. There's a sensitivity to it. There's a thoughtfulness that has to come into play to create that sense of belonging. I learned keep it simple, stupid when I was studying journalism, because it was always, how are you writing to really communicate effectively? If your message isn't getting through, who cares, right? It's useless, basically. I love that you're using that. It's such a good way to remember, you know, why does the New York Post write at a 2nd grade level, or many newspapers? Because we just need information in a simple way so that it can get through to us. So you talked about the importance of empathy a few minutes ago. So this is something that I think the word is mentioned so often, but when we talked the other day, you said something about bringing empathy back to the workforce. So what would you say, us as leaders on this call, all of us are kind of managing teams in different ways. How can we engage leadership or help bring empathy back amongst our team members and the stakeholders that we interact with?
Well, there's several things that you can do. I mean, again, human beings being human and having a self-awareness and an awareness of what's going on around us. Look at the world right now. It is chaos. And it is incredibly, the business world will never be the same again. This is not going anywhere. This has enabled us to have far better talent to fill the slots within our organizations that we need. And it could be somebody in Canada that may serve you in New York who's a far better fit than the person in Jersey over the bridge, right? So That's a beautiful thing. It's allowed you to be home with your baby. It's allowed Tommy to be there for the kids when they're, mom's trying to juggle all 5 of them. And he's, it's allowing for, excuse me, it's allowing for, well, I say 5 because you count too, but it's allowing for the milestones to be seen and shared, and for us to kind of regain that work-life balance. The 9 to 5 is gone. It's just gone. Nobody is going to be in an office every single day for the rest of their, that's not how our world is operating now. And things are changing and shifting. And the empathy piece comes into play, whereas change is very difficult for everyone in any case. It's tough, right? And unless you have that accepting philosophy or mentality and ability to just roll with it, which most of us don't, but some of us do, right? And it's something that you have to teach yourself to do. It's going to be that much more difficult if you don't. So having empathy lies in such situations as bringing that asynchronicity into your workspace, making it a more cohesive environment, including everybody in the decision-making process, and more so being a leader and not a boss. There's a huge difference between a leader and a boss, right? We need leadership, and that's where the soft skills come in. You may not be a manager or a president or a CEO or a board head, but you might be part of a group that's helping those people get to the goals that they need to meet. And if you can't pull leadership and creativity and cooperation out of your toolbox when you're working in a smaller group that may be struggling in an area, what's going to happen?
Yeah, so powerful. I mean, this feeling of being included and feeling of belonging is a tough nut to crack at organizations as they transition to really focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. I recently learned of a model called diversity inclusion councils, which is kind of an alternative to the ERG approach, but it's all based on what you're saying. It's about getting everybody involved in a different way and not separating people based on their cultures, because that used to happen as a first.
It does. I mean, it's still, Sean asked a wonderful question just now. And she said, sometimes she just doesn't feel empathetic. How can I, quote, get over myself? You're human. You're human. It can be hard for us who may be stronger in certain areas or who perhaps don't have an understanding, but finding your empathy. And Sean, thank you for sharing that, by the way, but we all have empathy within. You don't necessarily have to agree with whatever it is you are empathizing with, if that makes sense, but you have to be able to access the ability to understand how someone else may be feeling in the moment. Does that make sense? And does that answer your question a little bit? And I know it can be hard to do, but I think if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change, right? There's that funny meme of the cat hanging upside down, right? If we simply flip our perspective or flip the script, as we say in my profession, it's going to really make it a little easier by taking just 1 second to put yourself in that person's shoes. Okay, maybe I'm a lot stronger than that, or I don't show things that way, but I get it. This person has a new baby and they're feeling stressed, or this person has a sick mother and is going through a divorce and is trying to still work and support her family, or, and it's just about kind of maintaining that awareness and attempting to be understanding to a level without crossing a boundary, and seeing how you can make it work. Because while we don't want to make a habit of crossing a professional boundary to a level that's inappropriate, the world has changed to a space where we do need to be more familial. And because someone is blood doesn't make them family. And oftentimes the people that we do spend the most time with, which are the people that we work with on a Monday through Friday work week, or, I'm a former teacher. I spent more time with other people's kids than I did my own back then. So it's just kind of finding that awareness in that space and figuring out how can you, in the best way that you can comprehend it and share it, become more empathic.
So if I may take a moment just to clarify,
Sure.
I'm finding myself wanting to fly the flag at every opportunity these days. And what I mean by that is the British version of the singular. So I'm asking you, as an acting professional in particular, like, what's that tool in your kit that helps you kind of, when I say get over myself, so make that shift, get that shift so that I'm not flying the flag all the time, and doing that in situations that are not professional.
I think it's just about active listening and being willing to listen to understand and not to respond right away. Giving it the time to settle. It's okay to say to someone, I need to think about that, or I never thought about it that way. What can you learn from it? And I think there's so much division in so many areas of our country right now, and it's spilling over into everything that we do. And I'm the parent of a non-binary queer child, and I am prouder than can be, but I have to have a sense of empathy to those who don't understand it, and try to be a teacher instead of a preacher. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's so powerful. And I think that's why so many people disconnect from advocacy in the political process, because we just do not hear leaders in that arena say, you know what, I don't know. I'm going to take a beat and maybe I'll learn more about that issue. They seem to have all the answers, and it's an off-putting way to communicate. And I think what you're saying is we really connect when we're a little bit more honest, and we say, maybe I don't know about that yet, or I never thought of it that way. Even if in our mind we're saying, I don't think I agree with that, but you know what? We're all entitled to our own views and opinions, and it's not always easy to hear those from others. Thank you for sharing, Sean. I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to. I always try to think that we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know what some people are going through as well. And so it's always, we really can't make assumptions, and try to give people a little grace. It's something that I think we've all learned through the pandemic. I just wanted to ask, I see that Serena and Bobby are on. Please, enter your info in the chat if you can, since we didn't get to hear from you in the beginning. We're glad that you're here. I don't know if anybody else joined. But let's go back, Betty, to what we were talking about virtual presence, because it is a big part of our day-to-day in interacting and having our meetings now. So how do you work with your clients, or what do you tell people about the best practices? Like, is this, kids' piece of art that's kind of not taped properly behind me? Is that a distraction that I need?
I love it. Oh. I love it because it's real. It's human, and it could be an absolute point of discussion for someone who doesn't know you well. Oh, I have a toddler too, or tell me about that. Or, oh, how old are your kids? I mean, it's an immediate icebreaker. And we have to get back to that water cooler talk that we no longer get to have, right? So we have to find ways. And again, as I mentioned before, don't jump right into the business. Make a connection to the person that you're talking to. Everything from the way you're lit. And as I said, going back to the 7 seconds to a first impression, you don't have to be perfect. Look, I'm an actress. I have a one-up in that I know how to light myself. I know how to raise my computer at a level that looks appropriate and makes me feel like I'm actually facing the people that I'm speaking to. It just takes a few seconds, and it's about what makes you feel good. And every person is going to be unique and individual to their needs and desires, right? So, it's as simple as buying a $20 ring light, or grabbing a lamp from your house and buying a daylight white light bulb from Target, Walmart, or wherever, putting it in there and sticking it behind your computer on a stack of books. You don't even have to spend $20. You can spend $2 on a light bulb. It's easy things, knowing to face a natural light source. If you have a window, face it so that the light's coming in towards you. You don't even need a ring light if it's daylight. Changing around your office, making sure if you have light coming from this direction and from the side that you're blocking the side light. Hang a sheet up over it, or pull a shade. It's little simple things, and you don't have to be perfect. Now, I got up today and actually took care of myself because I felt like I needed to do that. And it's been proven scientifically, again, that how we dress up and show up directly affects how we level up in whatever it is that we do, right? So sometimes dressing up is important. And I don't mean dressing up, again, we don't have to wear a button-up blouse and the pearls and the heels, and Tommy doesn't have to wear a 3-piece suit to work anymore. We don't have to do that. A clean, solid color sweater, t-shirt, top is fine. Whatever makes you feel good. Wear something you feel good in. And we can get picky, but you're not acting in a film, or you're not modeling on a screen. So normally I would say things like, don't wear really loudly patterned clothing, because it does take away from you. But you need to be the main focus. However, what's behind you and the background that you present yourself in is also important. because we want it to be authentic. And while there is absolutely nothing wrong with a virtual background, I think it's amazing that Sean has these wonderful statistics behind her and it speaks to what she does. Just be aware that you've got a filter behind you and don't lean back so we lose half of you, right? You know, and if you want your company logo behind you, my suggestion is just to put it up in a corner so that we do see you on a solid color. You know, we can get detailed in that. You know, there are certain colors based on your hair color that really bring you out. You know, we don't want to wash you out. You don't want to look like you're part of the background, because we want, when you are speaking and you are being listened to, for you to be the main focus, right?
Lots of good tips. Yeah, I was trying to understand if you were saying maybe we shouldn't use virtual backgrounds as much because you want to kind of reveal some part of yourself if you're in an environment that's appropriate, but it seems like it's very nuanced.
It's about what you're comfortable exposing. Look, if you live in a you know, a studio in Soho and you have 400 square feet, you don't have much choice, right? Nobody needs to see your unmentionables. Do you know what I mean? But it's what your comfort level is, and it's what you are happy sharing. I love Tommy's office because it shares, again, he has all those conversation pieces behind him. You know, oh, what's that award from? Or what's that silly bobblehead? Or where'd you get that? Or, you know, I have pictures of my kids and, you know, my old horse. I mean, it's things that could stimulate a conversation when needed, but also makes you feel at home and comfortable in the space that you're working from.
Good advice. Thank you. So tell us, I guess, to give us a sense of how you typically work with your clients. How do you kind of take folks through the different challenges that they might be facing? Are you typically working with teams of people, or is it more one-on-one assistance? Share that with us so that as we, you know, think about our organizations and our needs and the folks that are in our networks, you know, what should we know is out there in terms of taking our connectivity to the next level, because that team environment is so important. You know, when I work on strategic planning, I always say a byproduct of this process is team building. And it sounds like a lot of the work that you do is very much in tune with team building.
So I love working with teams, and I can absolutely work with people on an individual basis as needed. And again, it's going to be unique needs to each team or individual. So I offer a couple of different service packages. I can do a webinar similar to what we're doing now as a one-time thing. I offer month-to-month training for sales teams or individuals, and I work on whatever you feel the need to grow. So if you need help mostly in the virtual aesthetics, like we just discussed, we'll focus on that. I offer 60 to 90-minute sessions once per week, whether it's with a team or an individual. So it's month-long packaging. Some people don't really need more than a month. 4 sessions is generally plenty. And if you want to follow up, I do occasionally offer private sessions again by the month. If you want to do a refresher 6 months down the road, or maybe adjust to changes. But again, it's unique to each need. So depending on where the sales team is struggling or where the board might be struggling. But yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because, you know, I think as nonprofit folks, many of us, the word sales can be a little bit of a foreign term. But what has been great about these sessions is we've brought in other marketers in the past as well to kind of help us work on our pitches. And Jamé, you know, that's no joke about learning how to convey your mission, right? It really takes practice. And it sounds like, I mean, I remember when I was at AARP, we actually had someone like yourself, a sales leader, come in and kind of help us all think about how are we serving as ambassadors for this organization and its mission more broadly. And that was a real aha day for me to think, wow, we are kind of in sales. We're all in sales in some way, shape, or form. We're selling ourselves, we're selling our missions. And what I love that Sherry Goldman said in one of our recent roundtables is that we kind of have it easy if we can get it right, because nonprofit missions are engaging in the stories behind the work that you all do, the impact. It's kind of like sales ready to go. It's not like we're trying to sell some fancy car. We're trying to sell real impact and how you all are helping people every day. So it's really kind of honing that. I just wondered if you found that teams have those aha moments when you work with them about the different ways to approach, you know, how they speak about their strategies and what they do.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, we have to look at it like, you are not selling a tangible product. You are selling the help to the people that you want to provide it for. And that's bigger than anything, in my opinion. So it is about making that mission come to the forefront and allowing the people that you're working with to recognize the importance of it. You know, one of the reasons I became an early childhood professional was because Fred Rogers was a huge advocate for me. I mean, I looked at that man like, oh my God, this is what I want to do, right? I grew up watching him on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I grew up, became a young adult watching his philanthropy and everything that he had done. And it was always about always look for the helper. That was the one thing he used to teach that stuck out, and I teach it to my students, and I remind myself of it when I need it. And it's really important that you don't have to be selling a product for money. It's about connecting to people in a genuine manner so that they're going to want to help you help others, right? And as sellers and service providers, that's what we want to do, help others. We want to help people with whatever it is we are providing, right? So it's kind of thinking in those terms.
I like that kind of approach, to kind of have your eye on the helper, or think of who that person is, because there's always someone on your team or in your group who you may not have kind of seen in that light in the past. But if you come to the table with that sort of approach, you're more likely to kind of find comfort and feel belonging, because you have that support system you might not have noticed was already, right in front of you.
Absolutely.
We're going to open it up for questions in a moment. I wanted to ask Betty if she has takeaways to share with the group about, what she would say for us as nonprofit leaders that we should take away from connectivity, about empathy, about belonging, all of the things that we're talking about, because these topics transcend every part of our lives as humans. I love the topic of the session that Betty came up with, because we are all humans, right? I mean, my partner Frank is notorious for finding a commonality that no one knew there could be. A lot of times it's golf for Frank, or where he's from in Italy, or where him and his wife went on their 50th anniversary trip. I mean, he just has this way, and his background is sales and technology. So I have learned so much from him, because that's kind of what salespeople are, it's embedded in their thinking. Tommy, yes, he's a connector, right? But that came from a sales training background, I think. And of course, some of it is just inherent in who he is. But so as folks think about their questions, Betty, what would you say you'd want us to take away from your work? How can we think about what we do differently based on all of your expertise?
I mean, I think a lot of you probably do it anyway, but I want just simply self-awareness, a recognition of the need for emotional intelligence, and slowing down to listen, to understand, and not to respond. As simple as that.
2 ears, 1 mouth.
Yeah.
That's what I try to tell my kids. 2 ears means listen more than you talk.
Yeah.
A 2.5-year-old does not get that. She's not ready for that.
Well, no, she's 2, and the whole world revolves around her.
Exactly, as it should, right? That's developmentally okay.
That's the ego. And then wait till she turns 3, because it's not the terrible 2s, it's the terrible 3s.
I know. So you just mentioned emotional intelligence, and that wasn't really something that we touched on so much. It's another term that's talked about a lot, as well as soft skills as it relates to hard skills. So fill us in on what should we know about emotional intelligence, and how the context of that is going to work?
It's everything that we just discussed. It is having that self-awareness and the ability to listen, to understand, and asking more questions and expecting less, I think. That's the simplest way I can describe it in just a second. But it's that self-awareness. It's taking a moment to listen. It's not having an expectation where one is not necessarily a great idea, right? It's not jumping the gun. It's listening to understand, listening with whole body. And again, just listening to understand and say, I need to learn that. I need to understand that. And when one teaches to learn, right? So not only can you teach to others, but someone else might have something to teach you, and having the emotional intelligence to sit back and allow for that without attacking or flying the flag, right? So I guess that's kind of the simplest way I can explain it in a short time.
I love that, because we talk a lot about being collaborative, and in the nonprofit space, how wonderful it is to partner up with other organizations. But often in the beginning, the challenge is when we go to meet with a potential partner, are we just spouting what we need? Or are we taking a moment to listen to what is the other organization looking for in this
It has
partner?
to be about them. As an actor, if I'm working with another actor in a scene, I'm more focused on what they want. And I wasn't when I first started, right? It took learning and time. I'm more focused on how can I help you, or what do you need from me, rather than what I need from you.
Mm,
You know,
that
it's the old
shift is
saying-
very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old saying, don't focus on the money. It's not the need, it's the want. It's the want to help and the want to succeed. And one of the things I love, David Meltzer is a seller that I follow. I just love his philosophy, and he's a self-made millionaire, and he's lost millions and gained millions, and he's an incredible guy. And one of the things I love that he says is 3 strikes and you're out, right? And in sales, people tend to be a little bit sometimes pushy, right? We have that, you know, and because they're coming at it from the wrong place. But yet when you come at it from a genuine place and a place of desire to help and a heartfelt space, especially with you guys as nonprofit organizers, you know, you guys want to help the groups that you aim to help. That is your goal, and your goal is to raise money or funding or housing or whatever it is that's needed, or therapy or whatever it is. And it's about making it all about that, as opposed to, oh, if I don't make this sale, I'm not gonna pay my bills. Well, no, you can't. You can't. It has to be a genuine desire to do the helping, and it has to come from there.
I think it's also interesting that we tend to do things for people, right? Because every mission that I heard introduced today is compelling. Every mission is worthwhile. So when it comes to a funder deciding who they're going to help, I think oftentimes it comes down to that connection amongst the leaders when they have that meeting. Is there a bond that goes beyond, of course, your worthwhile mission? And what is that connection going to mean for you as partners going forward? If the timing isn't right, then it's someone that you'll remember versus a meeting that's kind of more business-like, more buttoned up, that isn't allowing for that space of connectivity. It's a hard dynamic.
Here's a perfect example. You mentioned, is it okay for me to have my children's photos and art behind me? Absolutely, because I'm going to remember you before I remember someone who has a plain white background with a logo on the right. Because I connect to you. I'm a mom. I'm a teacher. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know, as actors in the room, I teach my young actors when I'm coaching them, you know, if you're auditioning and a casting director asks you what's your favorite food, and you go pizza, and then the next kid who looks just like you out of the 60 that's auditioning that look just like you goes, I love pineapple pizza and I like to go to Hawaii Joe's to get it. It's the only place in my city where I can get it. Who are they going to remember? And it's the same thing.
Right. Sharing a little bit more of yourself that creates some sort of bond, whatever it might be. I get a lot of questions about these pictures, which I love, of course. But what I'm always embarrassed about is that my younger daughter has no representation back here. I can't get it together to order more of these mixed tiles. I feel terrible. And she literally now climbs up and says, that's sis, that's sis, that's sis. Where's me? And I go, aw, getting there. So it's fun.
You have little kids. You get a pass.
Thank you.
You get a pass. Yes, I've been there, done that 3 times. Now they're big kids and they still make me crazy, but it's fine.
This is so helpful to hear, because so much of this is just, it touches every aspect of our work. Oh, I see a very long post here and I can't read all of this. Is this Allison? Yes, it is. Oh, good. Thanks, Allison.
Allison, that's so sweet.
Yes.
Allison, why don't you call it out? Are you still?
Well, Christine, I do want to let you know you're just giving your kids great material for therapy one day. So don't worry. We all do. And I'm the youngest of 5. I didn't even have baby pictures for my wedding video. So look how I turned out. We're okay.
That makes me feel better, Allison.
I'm sure. Yeah. You know, there's always hope, but I do want to say thank you so much, because, you know, I'm sitting with the blurred out white background because my office is a disaster, but you really gave some really simple, easy tips, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you brought up the executive director group therapy sessions that NRH hosts, because it's very much tied to this discussion of connecting. So we created the safe space for EDs to come together in our NRH community because it came up as a need. You spoke about isolation, Betty. When I worked at AARP, we talked a lot about isolation among older adults in particular for a variety of reasons. But executive directors can often feel separated from other groups because they're up on this mountaintop. Katie McGowan, you speak about this as well. It's hard to connect sometimes because you're so saddled with the weight of this organization on your shoulders. But when you get in a room with other EDs, you can kind of just breathe and share and have this peer-to-peer support. And so I think, Betty, that's us kind of without even knowing it, kind of tapping into some of your guidance by creating that space.
Well, I am glad that I was of some assistance. Does anyone have any other questions at all?
You have a small enough group, you can come off mute and ask.
Yes, please.
Burning needs for your team. I'd love to know what team building looks like at the circus, Lisa.
That's so cool.
It's actually interesting. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking back over the last couple of years and how much I've learned simply by experience to be doing exactly what you're talking about. But I didn't learn it because I took a webinar. I learned it because I was in the middle of something and had to. And here I was, and I had to make it work. And as you guys know, our team is 40% people with disabilities, and I don't mean all visible disabilities. So 7 times out of 10, a disability will not be disclosed. It will be a non-visible disability, and someone struggling with mental health, or they're struggling with this, or they're struggling with that, myself included, all of us. So learning to navigate that, and often someone will react and you don't know why they're reacting, and you're thinking, why are you creating all this drama? Like, nobody's dead, dying, or gonna be. Like, why the drama?
I think the most important thing is to remember that every single person that crosses our path is going through or has been through something we know nothing about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's, I mean, even the most horrible person you can think of, I will not name names, but, even that person that comes to your mind, right? The reason they are that way is because they suffered some form of trauma or abuse that was never addressed. And it's, and that's extreme, but it's true. I mean, as I mentioned, I have a young adult child with mental health issues, and it's really hard. I have a non-binary queer child. That's something to navigate. So it is, it's just having that. And I think for me, that is where my empathy comes from, partially, but also, maintaining an awareness that the pandemic in and of itself was a trauma for many, many people. And the massive changes that it brought about was an intense trauma for many people. And it's just kind of just recognizing, okay, again, we're all in the same boat on the same seat. However we may express it, it may be expressed completely differently from person to person to person, but it's affected everyone in some way, shape, or form.
Right. If there's any silver lining, I see a comment coming in here. If there's any silver lining for what we've all gone through together, it's that we've gone through it together. No one was not affected. So now we have this default commonality where we can kind of, even those who may have, we all know people who, for whatever reason, feel the need to act like they might be above someone else, or just separate themselves from others, or have an issue with others, people who are different from them. Well, now we have a commonality that could maybe help us better connect going forward. I'm like an eternal optimist. I'll find something great about anything, and it's not always good, but that's just how it turned out so far. Tommy?
Real quick, but again, I think it is good, Christine. I think it's good to be surrounded with people like you who can find the bright side in things, because God, I hate hanging out with the other people who seem to find the crappy side in everything, man. Like they're no fun. So I think, it's important. Here's two things I want to do right now. I don't know if Serena and Bobby Brown can come off mute. If they can, hold for 30 seconds, because they came from other meetings. So I'd like to have them introduce themselves and their organizations. But I want to just say something, and this is something I try to live my days like, and it's something I got, and I'm looking away because it's a Robin Williams quote, which I pretty much memorized, but I'm just going to keep looking at it. So Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind, always. And if we try to embrace that, try to think of that versus this person is taking advantage of me or doing this wrong to me. I don't know where you're coming from, man, but where can I find that compassion and that level of connection? And if we go to, not 100%, but if we can do our best to see the world that way, I think we're better off for it. So, Serena, I see you came off mute. Do you want to introduce yourself quickly, if you could, and talk about Siloam for about a minute, and then if Bobby can as well, and then we'll do our parting gesture.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, Tommy. This was very interesting. My name is Serena DiBianca. I run a nonprofit called Siloam Wellness, and we work with people living with HIV and AIDS. But I always say that HIV and AIDS is what gets you through the door, and then we have to unpack all of the trauma, whether it's societal trauma, physical, sexual, emotional, and only then does the healing begin for Siloam Wellness. That's where we have to start. The other thing is, and this question was asked, and everybody's journey is different. And so we start with the platform of talk about your journey. And that's also a place to start healing. That's what Siloam does.
Yep. Thank you for that, Serena. Bobby, I don't know if you're free to come off mute. If you are, please introduce yourself. If not, I will do my best job of talking about young New Yorkers. So
no problem at all.
Bobby Brown, take it away.
Yes. Hi.
Hey.
Good morning, everybody. This was such a great session and a lot of great information, and it was timely. As I'm navigating this new space. Sorry, my name is Bobby Brown. I'm the executive director of Young New Yorkers. We have a nonprofit. We run a nonprofit for 14 to 25-year-olds who are convicted, charged of a misdemeanor, and we're moving to felonies. And so we serve as an outcome on their cases. We're based in Brooklyn. We run out of now Queens. We just got into Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan. We'll be in Staten Island next year. So we're just super excited about the work we're doing. Art is our medium. That is how we communicate and work with our young people as they navigate through their criminal justice situation. So it's really exploratory work for that. But what I was saying is that it's really timely to have the conversation. I'm a new ED in this space, started in August. And so I'm navigating a lot of historical traumas that the staff has experienced. So kind of hearing this idea about empathy and hearing this idea about connectivity and balance and all of that, it was just really a great points to note. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Bobby. Thanks for being here. And met Bobby because of the New York City Imagine Awards, Bobby, met some of your team at the Imagine Awards. They sat with me. We are at the same table. So I had a nice time speaking to some of the women from your organization. So look, this has been a great session. I'm feeling, Christine Deska, that we need to have, years ago, we had Alan Samuel Cohen speak around emotional intelligence and the power of connections and things like that. We might have to go back to having something around EQ. If anybody knows Daniel Goleman, that'd be great to get him to speak, the guy who wrote the first books on emotional intelligence. I don't know that we can get him, but I know that if I didn't ask you for it, we certainly can't get him. So if you know him, hook me up. Christine, let's if anybody has any questions, let's finish them up right now. Otherwise, Christine, bring it to a close.
Sure. Well, let's everybody give Betty a round of applause. Betty, thank you so much. Do you have any final comments you'd like to make to the group?
Just thank you for having me. And I hope that you at least had a few takeaways that you can put into practice right away. And please connect with me on LinkedIn. Check out my website, connectiveengagement.com, just as it's spelled, or feel free to email me, betty@connectiveengagement.com.
In our follow-up email, we'll send Betty's info, a couple other tidbits perhaps from her site and her work. All I'll say is we're doing really great on time. You're going to get a lot of a break before your next Zoom. We appreciate your time. I think next month our default might fall on Thanksgiving, so we might have to adjust our next meeting, but we will let you know. This roundtable family is so special to us, and so we want to hear from you. The last comment I'll make is if there's a topic that we haven't touched on in a while or never have addressed in this community, we've done surveys in the past. We're probably due for a new one, but since we started, Tommy and I have somehow taken on like 5 other jobs each and children. So we were a little behind on some of the best practices that we set out when we started. So just reach out if there's a topic that you want to hear about. We that's what we deliver, so that's what we're here for.
Yeah, please do. Just tell us, Tommy, Christine, can you get somebody that does this? Because we can. So just tell us and we'll go find them and bring them to you, because that's what our gig is. Christine, I would never want to work on this project with anybody but you. This is very special. I'm glad to be your teammate on this. Somebody's coming into the room. That's up. It's Serena's back. Looking at her.
Likewise, Tommy. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thanks everybody. Make it a great day. Let us know if we can help. You know how to reach us. Have a great one. See you.
Bye.